News doesn't get any better today for the Devils, forcing them to give a new look on the ice and setting up for an even more complicated trade deadline just 2 days away, by the way. Welcome into Devils Digest. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button for all things Devils. More news out today, and it's not good. Jack Hughes underwent shoulder surgery today, done for the season. Look, there's no way to spin this or add anything. This is pretty much the worst news that the Devils could have gotten. You lose your superstar. You lose your elite center duo down the middle. You're going to lose offense. Teams are chasing you in the standings. You're 2 days away from the trade deadline. About 2 months away from the playoffs starting. And you just lost your best player. There's not much to take out of this other than the Devils are in a situation that really no team in the league can necessarily prepare for. You can't replace a player like a Jack Hughes in your lineup internally or externally. At least it's someone who's going to be available. No player with the type of skill set that Jack Hughes has is available at this trade deadline. Despite that, the Devils are still expected to be buyers. The plan has not changed. They're still going to go for it. They're still going to try and make a run here. Currently third in the Metropolitan Division. Columbus is on their tail. New York Rangers have gotten back into it late. Both teams, we don't know exactly what those two teams are going to do the trade deadline, whether they're going to try and make a run to get in. Rangers have shown a little bit of both. They've sold. They've also brought in Columbus. We don't really know. We know that they're not very close with Ivan Provorov in terms of an extension. That was someone who, they may make a move at the deadline. Do they bring someone in? If you're other teams in this division, in this conference, trying to get into a wild card spot, well, New Jersey looks like a team you can take out right now. I mean, they are going to be desperate at this deadline. They're not going to be the same team after the deadline. There's a lot here where if you're another team in this division, in this conference, trying to get in, New Jersey is a team that you could jump, or it looks now jumpable when you lose your superstar number one center. And when you really look at where the Devils are sitting in terms of the rest of the team, let's just bring up the lineup real quick. This is their centers down the middle right now. Nico, Hischier, Dawson, Mercer, Erik, Haula, Kurtis, Lazar. Erik Haula doesn't have a point in his past 27 games. Dawson Mercer, we thought he was going to take another step after a really not so great third year, junior year. It's been worse than last year. And that's not good news for your young center. Nico Hischier, he's been great for them. Did deal with an injury, just came back. I mean, you get Nico Hischier back. Jack Hughes jumps out of the lineup. Not great. Kurtis, Lazar, I think he's a strong fourth-line center. Hasn't produced as much offensively as maybe we would have wanted. But who has in the bottom six? I mean, outside of maybe Stefan Nason, who's kind of fit into more so a top six role for this team. He's slotted here in the third line, but who has in the bottom six? I mean, when you look at this team, there's a lot of underperforming players. One player you really needed was Jack Hughes, because Jack Hughes hasn't underperformed. He's their top player. He's their best creator. He's their best offensive player. He's their best just everything for the Devils. And now you're going to lose him. You're going to lose your elite center duo down the middle with him and Nico Hischier. When you look at the team, there's a lot they need to add now. When you have those superstars or those star players down the middle, you can get away with a lot of things. You can get away with maybe not so much of the great depth. You can get away with maybe, someone slacking a little bit who should be scoring a little bit more. You can get away with those things. They can't get away with those things anymore. Not only can they not get away with those things, if they want to contend, they need to add. Because this forward group won't do it in the playoffs. They're behind Carolina at this point. They're behind Washington at this point. They are behind these other teams in terms of forward star power, overall scoring. They are now behind the 8-ball in terms of that. And then don't even get me started with the Atlantic, because the Atlantic teams are probably better than the Metro teams in terms of offense. And if you want to have a long run, you're going to see an Atlantic team at some point. It's not a good look. The only thing to maybe, and there really isn't any much to take positive out of this, is that they are going to have money to spend. They can basically go out there and get whatever player or players they want. They're going to have around $13 million to spend at this trade deadline. So what it does do is it does open up rental players. Players who are on expiring contracts, you can go out and trade for them. And it's not going to cost you, as much. You don't have to kind of create cap space just for the next however many games they're going to play after the trade deadline and playoffs. You're not like, you're throwing away stuff for players who, you might sign, you might not sign. You can do that now. You have $13 million in cap space. Now, should they go for Mikko Rantanen? I said on my video yesterday, I don't think it makes sense with Jack Hughes out. He's going to cost you Simone Nemec. He's going to cost you a first-round pick. He might cost you Dawson, Mercer, or someone other along those lines. It doesn't make sense anymore. You don't go out and get a player who's going to expire, and I know it says it opens up to go and get an expiring contract. It doesn't make as much sense anymore. You're kind of replacing the same type of player and skill set in terms of, I guess, point production, but then you're not replacing much else, and you're going to have to give up a lot to go get Mikko Rantanen, and he's going to more likely than not walk away in free agency. You're probably not going to pay him. So when you think of those type of things, if you're not going to be that number one team in the Metro, I don't think Mikko Rantanen for Simone Nemec, a first-round pick, whatever else they throw in, I don't think it makes sense anymore. When Jack Hughes is in the lineup, yeah, because then you take him off Carolina. Carolina can't compete with you. You're a better offensive team than Washington. Then it made sense. It doesn't make as much sense anymore. Now, a player that I would look to, and I wonder if the Devils are thinking this, because he does have a little bit of time left, would be Elias Pettersson. Could you find a way, because he's had a struggle of a year. He's got 11 goals, 24 assists. He's going to be sold at a lower price point. I think him and Vancouver are starting to come to the realization it's just not going to work in Vancouver for Elias Pettersson or Vancouver. So if they're at that realization point, and this is a young player who's had multiple point-per-game seasons, what would it cost to bring Elias Pettersson over? Is that someone who I think they should be all in on? Is that someone who could come over? He's getting it sold at a lower price point. Teams around the league kind of know, Vancouver might kind of come to the realization that it might just not work there. The JT Miller situation with Elias Pettersson does not help Vancouver whatsoever, especially over the fact that JT Miller has played very well in New York on a struggling New York team, and Elias Pettersson has not gotten any better. I believe he has 1 or 2 goals since January 1st. He'd be cheap. He's young. He's still developing. I believe he's still a point-per-game player. And that really would fit that role that the Devils have right, or that I guess empty spot the Devils have right now with Jack Hughes out of the lineup. All of a sudden that fits a little bit better. And you throw Elias Pettersson, into this lineup. He's not Jack Hughes, but he's going to create. You're not going to lose a series because of Elias Pettersson. And I know he wasn't very good in the playoffs last year. Well, he had 18 points in his first 17 playoff games. That first playoff run in 2020, he was fantastic. He's going to cost still something but I think you can get Elias Pettersson a lot cheaper. Now, what else do they need to do? Obviously, they're going to get a center, whether it be a third or line center or an Elias Pettersson. That's going to happen. You probably need some help on the wing. Defensively, I'd like to add another offensive defenseman. Jonas Kovacevic has struggled as of late. Simone Nemec, he sometimes looks at NHL ready, sometimes doesn't. Seamus Casey probably should just still keep developing. There's a lot more, I guess, options in terms of money that you can do at this deadline with the $13 million. Does the plan say the same? Apparently it does. Apparently they want to run for it. They want to try and win. What they do, I don't know. How aggressive are they actually going to be? We'll have to wait and see. We're not going to have to wait long. We're 48 hours away, and Jack Hughes is done for the season. Still expected to be ready for training camp next year, but Jack Hughes' 2024-2025 season is over for New Jersey. Really tough pill to swallow, but you got 48 hours to go ahead and find out what your team's going to look like going into the playoffs. Let me know what you guys think, who you guys want to target, what you guys think the Devils should do with the money that they now have from the Jack Hughes injury.